Hello, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here for the Traveling Exhibition Forum. We've talked a lot about traveling exhibitions at our site. We've been doing them for since we opened in 1975. So when the opportunity came up, I thought it's probably kind of nice to participate in this, not as a creator because we create very little teeny weeny ones, but as a borrower because we have done years of that as National Exhibition Centre. So I'm going to present a little bit about what our experience was, a little bit about what we should be looking for in these kinds of things if you're considering borrowing, if they're a first-time borrower or a many-time borrower. And I think we can maybe bring out some of the issues that we may have as borrowers and some of the challenges, but I'm assuming that during the course of the next 2 days we're going to come up with a few solutions to some of those challenges. So I might as well see if I can make this work. This is our new building. We're the Timmins Museum National Exhibition Centre. We started out as a National Exhibition Centre in 1975 and started out with simply that component. In 1979, we added a community museum to the National Exhibition Centre, and that was first located in South Porcupine. In 2007, our building went kaput, to put it nicely, and we had to move. So this is our new site that we opened in 2011, slightly different from what we were used to with our other building in South Porcupine, which was a little bit, it was a custom-built building specifically for a National Exhibition Centre, which means I had 3 loading bays, I had 2 galleries for exhibition, I had loading dock levelers, I had state-of-the-art in 1975 for a National Exhibition Centre. We went to this building, which has 1 loading bay with a garage door on it, slightly smaller galleries, a pathway not directly into my galleries, and so, you know, for those of us who were spoiled, this is a little bit more difficult. However, we are making it work. We have, up until, as I said, 2007, we had 2 galleries. We now have 1 gallery within this site. But during the course of those 39 years, minus a 4, we did 641 temporary exhibitions, of which 468 of those were traveling exhibitions. And good grief, where do we get those guys from? Well, we did get them at the time. We were getting them from the national museums, from a number of provincial museums. Royal Ontario Museum, Manitoba Museum was excellent for that. Le Musée des Beaux-Arts de Montréal was great. We did community museums, a lot of different art galleries. We were part of the international program that used to be run through the Canadian Heritage, but you could get all kinds of traveling exhibitions that came from abroad through the embassies. We did tons of those. Those were great. That was a wonderful program that doesn't exist, but anyways, it was great. We also deal with a number of organizations, Northern Ontario Art Association, the Clay and Glass Association in Southern Ontario. We've dealt with corporations who have traveled their collections. The CIL group used to be really good for that. And we dealt with the Ontario Science Centre as well. And I think 3 months onto the job, we got the Ontario Science Centre Circus at our site when I was brand new. And I thought, oh, this is fun. We did 12,000 people in 1 month with that show. That was a little bit insane, but I survived and I decided not to leave. Surprise, surprise. So a little plug, this is our old National Exhibition Centre, and I'm putting in a plug for what those National Exhibition Centres were like in case you don't know what they were like or didn't get to work in them. They were started off between 1972 and 1975, part of the National Museum policy at the time. There were 23 across Canada, which were spectacular, and they allowed for you to bring in exhibitions from across Canada. They facilitated that kind of thing. It was supported with federal dollars, which helped you bring in those exhibitions. Transportation services were excellent because there were a number of them that happened both commercially but also through the Canadian Heritage at the time. So I put that in there because I missed the program, what can I say? But we chose, once the program was wrapped up in 1999, we did choose to continue to go on with that type of programming still continuing on our site. So I just wanted to put a little plug in for there. And that's our old site that is now no longer useful to anyone excepting to the city who stores the tractors in there now. So much for that. Okay, so We got on to like who we are and how we do our business and all of that kind of stuff, but I think it's probably a good idea to talk about now if you are looking at traveling exhibitions and it's the first time that you're going to be doing that, what you should be doing, what you should be thinking of. So normally, and you will notice as you walk through the site, you get all kinds of wonderful, beautiful little packages that talk about the exhibitions and what lovely people to talk to about all of those wonderful traveling exhibitions. So I suggest collect as many as you can and start looking through them and either store them in a box in your office or have them sitting there. But from time to time, go through them and figure out and start thinking about some of the following issues that you might have in terms of looking at those exhibitions. So do those when you start looking at the exhibitions. Does it fit your mission? If you're a historic house and you want to do something about, I don't know, rocks and minerals, does that really fit into your mission? That's very basic stuff, but a lot of people sometimes don't think about that when they look at those traveling exhibitions. And do you have an audience locally, besides yourself, who are really jazzed on these wonderful exhibits? Is there an audience within your community? There's some wonderful exhibitions out there, but no matter what you do, you can twist yourself into a pretzel. It's still not going to bring people from your community to come. So always think about your audience. Important thing, does it fit in the gallery? Technical stuff really, really helps. A lot of people forget about that component and I know in our region, some people have tried to bring in shows that we brought in and then figured out at the last minute that it's probably not quite possible to do that kind of thing. And do you have a hope of getting it into the gallery? There's a difference between having it fit in your gallery and having it actually make it to the gallery itself from the front door or the back door or up the stairs or whatever. So think about that as well. Are there a number of crates with the exhibition and requiring storage and sometimes requiring specific storage? When I was much younger and we had the other traveling exhibit or the other museum, we used to fill 3 back bays with crates sometimes. So you had 20 and 30 crates in the back, so you actually walked on top of the crates as opposed to around the crates to do things. But something to keep in mind. Do you have to hire the X-Men to help you with installation? It's really nice to have some of these shows, but can you actually install them yourself? And in some instances, there's only 1 or 2 or 3 people on staff that may be able to do that. Big things to consider. As well, does the exhibit provide some local context? Do people get it? Do people understand it? Or is this something that happened somewhere out on the prairies and it was a little thing that happened within the community? If you're going to, and they've created an exhibition on that, if you bring that to your place, are people going to get it? Are people going to feel good about that, or do they want to see that, or is that something that can tie in? But is there a local context? Perhaps there's some connections between those communities. Does some of the exhibitions allow you to add or to modify the exhibition? And that, again, comes into context. If there's something within that exhibition that you can jump off with because you have something in your collection that might help tell the story or add to that story, are you allowed to do that within the confines of that exhibit? Does it fit into your schedule? I'm currently booking 2017 and beyond for our gallery spaces. So you have to look at those kinds of scenarios as well. Does the show meet your exacting standards for research and design? Is it something that looks like something that you would be proud to show in your gallery? Does it have a bilingual component? For our institution, that is exceedingly important and is getting to be more and more important within my site, that our exhibitions have to be bilingual. And if they aren't bilingual, these traveling exhibitions, is there a way that we can make them bilingual, that do we have the resources to build on to that? And that's happening in a lot of instances in Northern Ontario, a lot of communities now, where there is a real push towards making sure that you are providing that service within the community. Does the exhibition have a sponsor? If it does, do you have a local link to that sponsor? If there is no local link and there is that sponsor to that exhibition, does that preclude you trying to get a sponsor to help you bring in that show? Because sometimes the shows are quite expensive. Other things that you really should think about as you're going through all of this: do you have enough trained staff to get the job done? Or do you have people that will come and help, but they're not exactly trained and don't really know how to handle the exhibition components? And that's a big deal for a lot of people. Does it come with an already developed education component, or do you and your staff need to design something and to put something out there? And again, with our community, we deal with 4 school boards, so we need to have components, an educational program in French as well. So the development of those becomes onerous if you do not have the staff to do that. So it's just something to keep into consideration. Other issues also are, does it have a catalog or gift shop merchandise or some type of takeaway material or some swag that you might want to carry in your shop? And what are the deals that you have to negotiate with that as well? We've done some things with catalogs where we have brought in the catalogs, but we've made no money and lost on them. And we thought, why is this, if it's $29.99 and I'm selling it for $29.99, the incentive for me to sell it is not quite there. So things to consider, and things that your shop people will want to consider as well. As well, consider the nuts and bolts stuff. Is the exhibit what I call a turnkey exhibit, or is it a Lego project? Turnkey exhibit is you can bring it in, you take the little covers off of the cases, you wheel them into your gallery, and ta-da, you're good. Is it a Lego project, which means that you open the 36 different crates and start looking for the boxes that have screws A that go into like component B and stored over there with component C? So those kinds of things, they take a little bit longer, and you need the space in order to actually put together the Meccano set. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're looking at exhibitions. On the techie side, what are the electrical requirements for the shows? When you plug it in, is it going to blow up your entire system? We have actually ran additional electrical components. We've rewired our galleries. We've put in new electrical panels in order to facilitate some of the exhibitions that are coming in. And it's something that we can do, and I say that because we have a long history of doing that, but also we're a municipal institution, and they will provide that support. But if you don't have that lovely support, you have to think about that in terms of the exhibitions. How many lovely computers come with the show? And I hate computers with traveling exhibitions. I know, I'm just a Luddite, what can I say? But they invariably work for 2 weeks, and then afterwards we need to bring in our IT people, and it's just, anyways, I'm not going to say it, I'm going to be good. Can be difficult. I've also had some homemade technical extravaganzas that come from not some of the larger institutions, but the smaller ones, things that work, that are sort of, as we say in French, braqués, ensemble, and it works really well in the gallery, but if it's been touring on the road for a couple of months, the mirrors don't line up anymore, so you don't get quite the image that you're supposed to be reflecting off of in whatever gallery or space. So those kinds of technical things, keep that in mind too, because they are out there. Other things that we've seen is, are the ceilings high enough, which we all consider, we think about when we try to bring something into a thing, but also you have to also consider, is your floor strong enough? And sometimes in some instances, are your walls strong enough? Because there are some things that you have to hang off of them, that you have to bolt to walls, that can tear things apart and make all kinds of wonderful problems for you. So just some of the little techie things to consider when you are looking through all of this wonderful material and all of these good things. I'm just putting in another word for storage, because storage is such a huge thing, and that crates can be very heavy and awkward and big and all of those wonderful things. And crate storage spaces like this one don't exist in all of our sites at all. So something to keep in mind, again. And I underline that because I've had too many run-ins with crates. What can I say? Okay, so now you've accepted or you've decided on an exhibition. And you've gone through all of the material, and it all looks really, really good, and everything is cool. So now what happens? Because, you've made your choice. Now you have to approach the institution and say, golly gosh, gee, we'd love to have your exhibition. So negotiations will begin, and they can be fun depending on who you're negotiating with. Although we have some really good people to work with, and but it is a long process. So first things first, review the lender's info, look at the traveling schedule and the costs and the facility requirements, which you have done. Estimate those costs for your facility, because shipping is the tricky part on this. Some things are wide open. In terms of shipping, some things are included in your exhibition fee, and some things are on a prorated fee where you're paying just the same rate, but everybody pays it, no matter if you're in Tuktoyaktuk or Timmins or Toronto, you're all going to pay the same price for your shipping. So something to keep in mind. You also have to complete a facility report with a number of places, and you send that back to the lender, and that process can take a lot of time. So it's not going to happen overnight. Some places, if you have a long tradition of doing this kind of thing, they know your site and they've worked with you before and they're comfortable. If you're new on the block, there are a lot of things to answer in those facility reports, and a lot of technical things that you may not be able to answer, like the construction of your building and what's behind the walls and what your services are. So you need to talk to a lot of people as you get this put together and as you try to decide how you're going to get that done. So now, after submitting all of that, you are good to go. You have your lending institution's blessing. You have the blessing of your board, and everybody is very excited, and we're all yippee-doo, and we're ready to go. Now you got to sign the contract. So when you look at the contract, it includes all of the wonderful things you all need to know, but it's really good to know the contracts and to understand what you're getting yourself into. So exhibit content is going to be listed. It's also going to indicate the schedule, the location, and the dates that you're going to be having this exhibition. The fees and arrangements will be there, because sometimes it's one lump fee that you must pay before X date, or we're going to drag this out over the 3 years before you actually get the exhibition, and you can pay a little bit on an installment plan. Or if you work with a municipality who doesn't want to pay anybody until they actually see the show, have seen it, and shipped it back out, it becomes very interesting. So things to keep in mind. It will also list what credit lines you have to deal with, what logos, who you need to thank, and the long list of people you need to put on the bottom of every single poster you create, and all of those wonderful things. It's going to delineate the sponsorship deal and what you have to think about if there's a specific sponsor for that exhibition, and how you're going to have to stroke those people as it goes across the country. Environmental monitoring requirements, and that depends on the exhibitions, again, that you will be receiving, but there are a lot of lists and things to go through with that. And then who does the installation and takedown? Some of our larger partners through the national museums will actually send an installation team. Yay! We go for that. Yes, please, thank you. In some instances, though, you don't get the team to come back to dismantle, so make sure that you have your ducks in order, which I did not, and I know that, for one of our exhibitions that we recently did. But it all worked out. We negotiated again. It was lovely. But things to consider, because some of those large pieces and some of those large exhibitions that take their installation officers 4 days to put up in your gallery, for you to take down and to repack is going to probably take you 8 weeks. I don't know. It's insane, because you're not quite sure about how that goes together. But anyways, it's all doable, and it's things to consider. Also, think about condition reports, which you're going to have to fill in too with some of the exhibitions that do come in, depending on what they are. It's also going to deal with, the contract will deal with how to deal with damage and loss if something happens. If it's a little something, you can repair it, like painting the corner of a case. If something explodes and it's kaput, then you don't touch it, and it's all covered in the contract. Insurance coverage is also put in the contracts, who carries what at what point in time, door-to-door insurance, or just travel, or while it's in transit, or a whole series of things to think about. Security, what you must provide on your site. We've, in the bad old days, like years and years and years ago, I know that we've had actually exhibitions where our then director curator used to sleep with the exhibition because we couldn't do the security any other way. And that was in the late 80s. We don't do that kind of thing anymore. Trust me, we don't do that kind of thing anymore. You can all ask Ken Doherty about that. So copyright, reproductions, and photo policies, that's also included with the contract, and dispute resolutions and cancellations if at the last minute you decide, I really don't want that show. So they'll deal with those kinds of issues as well. I'm going to say 3 words about insurance, well, 3 little things about insurance. Insurance for the collections and exhibit is established by the lender. Insurance while the show is in transit is based on estimates made by the lender. And liability insurance covers personal injury and property damage, and you will have to deal with that kind of thing. So it's, in some instances, it's not a big deal. In other instances, it can become a bit of a cost, an additional cost to consider while you're doing the exhibition. Okay, so you have successfully secured the exhibition, you have signed your contract, and miraculously, woohoo, it's on its way. Now you need to prepare in terms of your space and thinking about things and how you get that done. So, preparing for the new arrival. So we'll look at the two different cases. If it's a turnkey exhibition, look at your floor plan and think about circulation, how people normally circulate in your gallery when they come in. Do they go to the right? Do they go to the left? How do you want to start and put that exhibition together? You have to think about how you're going to redirect your lighting, what you're going to do with your lighting. Do you require false walls? Do you need to paint something? Do you need to get that all together? And you have to start doing your marketing and getting the word out in the community that this is coming. If you're reworking this exhibition, and which I find really interesting, some people rework these exhibitions so that to a point where it doesn't even look like you've actually brought in a traveling show. If that's your case, like, don't bother with the traveling show. But in any case, retain as much of that show as you possibly can and plan around the components that you are keeping and the component that you want to add. Say you want to add something because it's part of your community and it's you want to focus in. I look at World War I exhibits now. If you want to do your little community contribution to that, building onto another exhibition, that's fine. But keep a lot of the other stuff together. And again, you got to do that in marketing and get that together. Delivery day. And to the people who are here with Packard and with Armstrong, I know you guys don't do this because I know you don't do this. However, other transportation companies that we have dealt with usually have a surprise. So I'm going to say, because you are wonderfully efficient and you know what you need to unload the truck and you're all organized, that is really cool. However, when that truck pulls up, there are a lot of things that transport company may not have shared with you. And that is, the truck came with one driver, and it's usually the skinniest, scrawniest man you've ever seen on the face of the earth. And that's the guy who's supposed to take the stuff off the truck. And not one word of a lie, we've done this way too long. And he's usually got a limp too, the poor man. Or the bad back. Yes, I'm sorry, I have a bad back and I can't do anything. That's the fun part. Second thing that we found that was really fun was the truck comes with a ramp because we no longer have a dock leveler, so you got to take it out of there. Well, the ramp didn't come with the truck. Or my favorite one was the ramp was this big. The case was this big. So that was no good. You get sometimes, and a lot of the national institutions will tell you when you need a forklift. Some people will not tell you when you need a forklift. So then you need to find a forklift when the truck is actually in your parking lot because nobody actually told you needed one. And you need a qualified driver to do that. And in some instances, you need your staff to help to unload. I have a bad back, skinny man, but the two people that you happen to have on staff are elderly ladies who have heart conditions. So you have to think about these things. So as much as you plan, I'm just sending this out as a warning, and I know you guys don't do this, but it does happen out there, and every time that a truck pulls up to us, I have just a little bit of a heart attack. But hey, you get it off the truck. Life goes on, and things are really good. And if you're really, really lucky, this is your loading bay and it actually gets into the site. And this is not what we all deal with, but we can always dream, right? Okay, moving on. It's in the building. Upon arrival. And you never know what you get. Check out the shipping list and make sure you have received everything. And they all come, a lot of the shipping things will come with little yellow tickets on them, and you have to play the bingo card and tick off all of those things. And if there's 36 different pieces, you should have 36 little bingo things happening. I have an expo unit that has traveled across this country more than what I have, because every single time it ends up on a truck whenever we're shipping things out. So I'm usually chasing it down. I think the last place it visited was Peterborough and lived there for a while. So, those little bingo cards in and out of the truck, very important. Once you do have the crates though and stuff in your space, inspect the crates for any trauma or damage or whatever, because sometimes they get dropped. They don't want to talk about that, but they do get dropped. And if there is any damage, note it on the receipt that you receive from your driver and document and photograph it and send it to the lender immediately. They like to know these kinds of things. I found out that when things are squashed, they really like that. You have to open the crates, but let things acclimatize and get used to your environment a little bit. It's really nice to want to rip everything open and to go for it, but let things sort of settle for a day or so, depending on what they tell you. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's okay. So uncrating, what I've done is I photograph the crates when I open them. A, you never know what you're going to find inside them, and B, if you're the one who's going to be packing it up, chances are it's not going to fit the same way as when it came in. I mean, it's the dirty little secret out there, but it's true. So at least if you have some type of a photograph, once you open the crate, you kind of know what it should look like while you're sending it out. And I say that because people seem to think that they all have a little slot and everything fits into the little slot. Well, it does fit into the little slot for a while, and then it doesn't because we missed or lost a piece of styrofoam or something else fell off, or then there's blankets or packing crap all around it that you don't know where that came from. And so I mean it's traveling across the country. It doesn't go home very often, so it kind of looks like it's picking up stuff as it goes, and life goes on. When you open those crates, find the installation manual. On a lot of places they don't tell you which crate the installation manual is in, so have fun with that, because that's always been my favorite. And in some instances, you don't have an installation manual because either A, it got left off somewhere in Moose Jaw, or somebody just disposed of it because they didn't think, oh, well, they probably have their own. Anyways, it's things to think about. And it's always great fun. So now you get to the installation, and yeah, it can be fun. That was us about 10 years ago installing, I hate to say it, the Shania Twain exhibition in Timmins. So it can be fun, and then, sometimes it isn't. So your installation happens, and then you're done, right? Well, you are, to a certain extent, done. The installation is great, and everybody's happy, and things that you need to continue to do, though, because, things are never finished, right? So after the installation, you keep up the promotions, and you hold an opening. And I cannot stress the importance of the opening enough for a traveling exhibition, because how else is the media in your community ever going to know? You can put it out on social media as much as you want, but having something on the news with somebody walking around and talking about the exhibition is probably really, really good for something that is unfamiliar to your community. So hold that opening. Keep up the security issues, because that has to happen. Monitor the exhibition continuously, because the computer's going to blow up sometime and all those great things are going to happen. So please keep your eyes open and make sure that you look at that exhibition every day. You're going to have to monitor the environment, because on some instances you have to report back to your lender and let them know that yes, things haven't deteriorated and they haven't bubbled up, oozed up, or blistered, or done any of those things. So they want to know that everything is good. Keep track of your attendance, because you're going to need to fill that out and let people know about all of those good things right at the end. But the most important thing now is to enjoy the exhibition and enjoy the show. So I have just a few more things to talk about, and that is just a few things for the exhibition creators out there that we found is very important and something to keep in mind for as we go along with this. Clear installation manuals, please, is our number one request. And don't hide them at the bottom of the crate, please. Make them really accessible at the top. And make clear and simple packing instructions and materials. We used to get exhibitions that had photographs of the staff packing the show and unpacking the show, which was actually, you think, but really, really useful. And I miss those, because I don't see too many of those anymore. But that really helped out for a lot of people. Realistic installation and dismantling expectations, because we don't all have Mr. Carlson and his staff on speed dial, so we need to know what is required for installation and what is required for dismantling, and that makes sense. I also suggest, prior to creating a lot of things, is think about the community out there. Smaller institutions, larger institutions, and what kind of topics are people dealing with? What kind of things really go fast, that book really quickly? And I think about a show that Bev did, the Sitting Pretty exhibition. Everybody in the province wanted that. Why? Because it was something really universal. It was about plumbing and toilets. Everybody got that, though, and that was a successful exhibition in the sense that it's something that related to your community and that everybody could talk about. And it was kind of a fun thing to bring into a gallery space, right? So those kinds of topics, are universal topics, I think, are what will sell within the museum community. Shipping costs, in a lot of instances, are what the deal breaker is for many of our institutions who are looking at traveling exhibitions. I look at, particularly in my section of the province, I can pay, and I'm sorry to say this out loud, but I can pay a $1,600 exhibition fee and a $6,000 shipping bill on that exhibition. So I really have to think about how we're going to be doing and what we're going to be bringing in and how can we make that more palatable to our institution. And I know that that's not the fault of the shipping companies. I mean, it's a reality that we live in, but we need to figure out, I think that's one of the main issues that we have in terms of bringing in traveling exhibitions, and we have to talk about it. And how bigger the crates. With a little design, sometimes the crate can double as a display case. I love that component. We have one in our gallery right now that is that kind of component that works out really, really well. So my final point is for those of us who are in the business of traveling exhibits, we need to talk more often. I don't think we actually get the borrowers and the lenders in scenarios where we can actually talk about what our needs are and what the needs of the lending institutions are and the borrowing institutions. So I think this kind of a forum really helps us out to do that kind of thing. So I just have one anecdote that I have to finish with, though, because it's one that really says a lot about traveling exhibitions, I think, in our country. Back in 2001, we were borrowing an exhibition from the Royal Ontario Museum. It was a wonderful exhibition. It was an exhibition on Egypt. We had been looking forward to that. We had been working on getting that in our gallery for a number of years because it was a popular exhibition. So we were scheduled to receive that in September of 2001. The show arrived on, I think it was the 10th of September 2001. When we received the exhibition, we opened up the truck. And for those of you who know the exhibition, it's a series of display cases and a wonderful sarcophagus. So what the shipper had done was he tied all of the display cases to the periphery of the truck. So they were all anchored in there really nicely. But the sarcophagus, which was on wheels, was not. So when they traveled it, it went bing, 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 bing inside the shipping, or inside the truck. So we opened up the thing, and we refused the shipping because every single display case had been smashed. They had little dioramas with all these wonderful little Egyptian people, and they were all beheaded. Everything, it was a disaster. It was a great big disaster in this space. So we refused the exhibition. 3 days later, we put out, because people were wondering what's happening, we put out in our marketing that due to circumstances beyond our control, we could not provide the exhibition and we had to cancel it. My first telephone call was from CBC, not Timmins or Sudbury CBC, Toronto CBC. You canceled that exhibition because it's Egyptian, right? Why? Because we're on September 13th, 2001, after 9/11. We said, no. We didn't. I mean, we were in insurance discussions, and you're in all of these kinds of things, so you don't want to tell people, well, it's the stupid shipper who, ruined the exhibition. So we said, no, we didn't do that because of that. We did it because, we had these other issues, and there was some damage to the show and all of that. And they said, are you sure? Are you sure you're not doing this because? So that was a fun kind of scenario. However, I'm very happy to say that we opened the exhibition at our site 3 weeks ago. We finally got it back. And it was the Shames shipper. And he learned his lesson. So the sarcophagus did not travel through and break up everybody, and the show is wonderful, and it's been really well received. Only 11 years or 12 or 13 years after it was supposed to be there, but we got it in finally. So persistence pays off. So that's my last little bit, and have fun with traveling exhibitions because they are a blast. And I have to say that working with the people in the province, it's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful 39 years, and we're still continuing on with the projects. And I'm currently working on counting the one that we looked at this morning, 22 exhibitions in the next 3 years. So have fun. Thank you.